Good evening.
Right.
Hi there.
Sorry for this delay. We were delayed with the minion. Sorry, Richie.
I assume so.
But we're here now. Yes, perfect timing. Yes. Perfect timing for some. Perfect time. Perfect timing for some. Yeah. Okay. Occasionally it works, Avi. Occasionally, yeah. All right. So right, let's just remind ourselves where we were up to. That's right. We did the Gemora, and we did the Gemora, not the Rashbam. So let's recap from the Brisa, right? So 3 lines down from Mem Gimel Amud Beis. I said we did the Gemara, we didn't actually explain, we didn't go through the Rashbam a bit. Tona Rabbana mochalo bayis mochalo soda. If a person sells a house or sells a field, ein meid lo oleho. That means Reuven sells a field or a house to Shimon. Reuven is not allowed to testify that the field is genuinely Shimon from a complainant like Levi, who comes along and says, "Excuse me, this is really not yours." Reuven can't act as an aid. Why? Because obviously, because he's going to come back to him, right? He wants to testify that it really belongs to Shimon, because if Shimon loses it, who's he going to come back to? The person who gave him a guarantee, the person who sold it to him, right? If he sold him a cow or he sold him a talis, he's allowed to testify because he doesn't get to come back to him, right? And on that, the Gemara asked, there's no difference. Fundamentally, the din is the same. If you sell someone a cow, you sell someone a computer, you sell someone a house, it makes no difference, right? Very simple principle. If I sell you something, someone else claims ownership because they claim, for example, that I'm a thief and really it belongs to them. Obviously, I can't stand up together with another aide and testify it's yours if you're going to come back knocking on my door and saying, can I have my money back? Simple, yeah? Because that's obviously, I'm Nogea Badova, right? Nogea Badova means that I stand to gain from my testimony, which I clearly do. You understand, right? And that's the difference between, that's what was questioned. What's the difference in the first and latter case? To answer this, the Gemara effectively establishes that the two cases are talking about basically different scenarios. Omar Rav Sheshus, Rav Sheshus says, let's deal with the Reisha first. Reisha, the first case, the Bride says, Reuven shegoznal sodom and Shimon. Reuven stole a field from Shimon, umochra leLevi, and then he sold the field to Levi. So we've added a person here. That's what's critical. Do you understand? We've added a person. That means beforehand, yes, beforehand we just had Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Now we've got Reuven, Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda. Because Reuven stole the field from Shimon, sold it to Levi. They've got 3 people involved, yeah? But also Yehuda comes along, v'koma arer, and he says, hey, stolen goods. Not from Shimon, but Shimon really was illegitimate in it as well. It's really mine. You're all lying, he says, right? In another side. Okay, but he brings evidence. He brings something. He brings something to, sort of whatever, back up his claim. There has to be something there, right? So the din is, so you also have to become Ara, de lo lezel Shimon, la asid leila Levi. So Shimon is not allowed and go. So this is, Shimon is not allowed, de lo lezel Shimon, la asid leila Levi, and testify for Levi. Okay, this is the twist. We're not talking about Reuven now testifying, Reuven who stole it from Shimon. We're talking about Shimon who Reuven stole it from, is not allowed to testify, yes, that really it's rightfully Levi's. Yeah, who Reuven sold it to. Why? Because he wants it to stay with him. He wants it to stay with Levi. The Gemara says, if he's now testing, if Shimon, who's claiming that Reuven stole it from Shimon, right? So if Shimon goes along and testifies, hey, this field that Levi is claiming, no, it belongs to Levi, Reuven sold it to. Well, how's he ever going to get it back then? Clearly, Shimon wants it back, yeah, and that's why we're concerned that maybe he is potentially he's not allowed to testify. Right? Because he stands to gain. But he can't get it back. Because he's just testified it belongs to Levi, who Reuven sold it to. No. Right? You with me?
Why is he doing it?
Why is he doing it? Oh, that's what we're going to discover in a moment, right? But you have to be always clear on the four people, right? That's very important. Reuven steals the field from Shimon. Reuven sells it to Levi. Yehuda comes along and says, excuse me, this is really mine. Shimon is not allowed to go and testify that Yehuda's lying because really it belongs to Levi, okay? And the Gemara asks, but if he does that, Shimon can never get it back. And therefore he's not Nogea Badova because he can't get it back. He just testified it belonged to Levi. Exactly. He's never going to be able to get it again. All right?
Why would he do that? Okay.
That's not the question, why would he do it? The question we're interested in is, wherefore, why can't he do it? Why can't he testify?
Well, assuming Toras going to tell us. I can't see.
Yeah, we're going to see. We're going to see. Right? Okay. But the point of the Gemara is not why he does it. We'll see in a minute why he does it. Okay. The point of the Gemara is that we're trying to establish why it is that Shimon is not allowed to testify because he stands to gain. Right? But how is he going to gain? Once he testifies that it's rightfully Levi's and not Yehuda's, clearly he can no longer say, hey, it's mine. Right?
Yeah, so then one of the
I can draw it on the board if it's easier.
Well, one of its testimonies would be false.
Pardon?
If he said later it's mine, he can't.
That's right. That's right. So the Gemara is going to have to construct a statement that Shimon makes which doesn't undercut his case, which allows him to back out. Yeah, right? And the case is, the Omar, he said, Yordano the Hayara de Lav Yehudi, right? He just said, oh, you want to draw it? Okay, good. You're like, everyone's different. Everyone works in mine works in a different way. Listen, here, Garvey. You can draw it. We'll test if you understand it. What?
Shimon says this is my land, and the sales lady is not valid. So therefore,
Shimon, what? Shimon? Sorry, Shimon was that?
Shimon said this was my land.
Yes.
Reuven stole it from me. Right?
Yeah.
So therefore, the sale to lady is not a valid sale. So he does. He's against it.
Shimon testifies that it belongs to Shimon. Shimon says, okay, when you say it wasn't a valid sale,
Well, you can't sell something that's stolen.
No. Well, one second. Well, you can't. Look what the Gemara says. The Omar, the scenario is, he said, Yordano to Hai Ara de Lav Yehudi. That's all he did. He says, I can prove to you that this land does not belong to Yehuda. That's all Yehuda does. That's all Shimon does, right? Now, you understand? Reuven steals the field from Shimon, right? And sells it to Levi. Reuven sells it to Levi. Yehuda comes along and says, hey, this field's mine. Shimon gets up and disproves Yehuda's claim. How? Whatever, he proves that it's a forged document that Yehuda's got. Yehuda's got some dated star that says, actually, this is really mine. And Shimon gives it a chemical analysis. Shimon gives it a chemical analysis. You're doing well, Avi, you're doing well. Here, let Richie see as well. We're giving me chemical analysis that it was really tea stains. What? I don't think you can see it anyway.
I prefer to see you. I can't see it on the board anyway. Thank you.
So Shimon says now it's my land.
Okay, so what was that? Shimon says it was that's what no. Shimon does not say it's my land. That's the point, okay? And that's how he doesn't undercut his own case. All Shimon does is he disproves Yehuda's testimony. Come on, I'll put your misery. I'll put you.
I don't know how to show you've got to start. See, you've got to start with Shimon. That's the point. That's the point. Because you don't start with Shimon, you're going to be ruined.
Okay. Last time I saw somebody writing.
Right.
Okay.
Here we go.
Shimon, right? There's Shimon. Shimon is Reuven. Okay. Reuven steals a field from Shimon. No one can see it. Let's put it up here. Right.
Oh. Okay.
Right. Reuven takes the field from Shimon. The field has gone to there, right? This is the field. Shimon has a field. There's a field. See a field? That's a field, yeah? This field, Reuven stole. We know that. That's a fact. Not debatable. Okay? Reuven then sold the field to Levi.
That's not debatable. And how is the sale to Levi valid?
We know because we know that Reuven stole it from Shimon. We just don't know who the real owners are. But at the moment, we think Shimon was the original owner. That's what we think so far, right?
Yeah.
We know it's a fact. We know Reuven stole it from Shimon, right? Because we want to set up the case like that, right? So we know Reuven stole it from Shimon, and then we also know that he stole it from Levi. These are the facts. Let's not sold it to Levi. Then we'll deal with the question marks, right? The question mark arises with Yehuda, because Yehuda comes along, and we'll put him here. Yeah, Yehuda comes along, and he says, right? And Yehuda comes along and says, you know that field that you said was Shimon's, that's really mine.
He goes to Levi.
Yeah, exactly. He claims that actually he was the owner of the field. So Yehuda goes to Levi and says, hey, that's my field, right? The field has traveled from there to there, and Yehuda says it's really mine. So Yehuda's got a claim on the field. Now, the halacha is, says the Gemora, is that Shimon is not allowed to disprove Yehuda. So Shimon wants to come along and do what? Shimon wants to come along and disprove Yehuda. Knock him out. Why? Because if he knocks out Yehuda, what does that mean? That means he can still go back to Levi, all right, and claim it's his, because Yehuda's out of the picture. All right, that's where we are so far. You understand? They do. Yeah. They do. Yeah. You understand? Does that make sense? Do you understand? I mean, the arrows don't really come.
I should have started with Shimon. That's why I was getting lost.
Yeah. Okay. So now look what the Gemara says. Yeah, the Kimad Asile Levi. It's funny because everyone's mind with this is something, you know, in yeshiva, you know, some people, they love these charts, you know, these like cross grids and like muta also muta. I can't, my mind goes crazy. I like to think it through in my head. Do you know what I mean? You ever seen those things? They love the art school, love it. You know, the bottom of this thing, I can't look at it. Muta also. Do me a favor. Let me just learn the Gemara and I'll work it through in my head. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, E-boy Seymour and then thing and the Ikad Amri, and there's like 3 of them, and there's 15 columns. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
What I don't understand is really the arguments between Shimon and Yehuda.
Yeah, the argument is between Shimon and no, the argument is who owns the field, right? That's the argument. Okay. At the moment, Shimon and Yehuda are disputing because Shimon says he's the owner. And Shimon comes, sorry, Yehuda says he's the owner, Shimon says he's the owner, and Shimon successfully has evidence to successfully knock out Yehuda, right? But the halacha is he's not allowed to do so, right? That's what he wants to do, okay, right? Now the Gemara says like this: if the problem is, why is it that we're preventing Shimon from doing that? Why are we saying to Shimon, you are not allowed to knock out Yehuda's testimony? Why are we saying that? Because you've got vested interest. What vested interest does he have? Let Yehuda keep it. Let Yehuda keep it, right? And with the same evidence that he's going to subsequently bring against Levi, that he's the rightful owner, he can, for the same price, he could bring it against Yehuda. And if he doesn't have a vested interest, it makes no difference to him. You get that, Eli? We're trying to prove why you have a vested interest, right? Yeah. Why does Shimon have a vested interest? So we're saying, what vested interest do you have? At the end of the day, let him knock out you. Not let him knock out Yehuda. He should be allowed to testify. He should be allowed to testify, as he wants, right? In other words, let him knock out Yehuda and go to Levi. I've got vested interest. He doesn't have a vested interest because the same thing he's going to say to Levi, he can say to Yehuda. So what does make a difference to him? The answer is, to Omar, he says, Hasheni noachli arishan koshe menu. I prefer Levi than Yehuda. Levi's an easier guy. I know him. He's a known entity. He's a known quantity. Yehuda's a mafia boss. I don't want to get involved with Yehuda. And that's why Shimon has a vested interest. You understand? So again, Shimon has a vested interest. And the reason why we are going to prevent Shimon, he's the key person. Why are we going to prevent Shimon? Right? Why are we going to prevent Shimon doing this? Why are we going to prevent Shimon? Well done. Right. Thank you. Why are we going to prevent? That's fine. Thank you. Why are we going to prevent Shimon doing this? And the answer is we're going to prevent Shimon doing this because he's got he will stand to gain by knocking out Yehuda. And what's he going to gain? Because Levi is a weakling. Yehuda is very tough.
But the difficulty with that argument is he's going up against a tough guy.
Who's?
Shimon. He's going giving evidence against Yehuda.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't mind doing that.
Right. Okay.
Again, he doesn't mind sending in evidence to the Beis Din or standing up in court with the defense of the court. It's a good point, yeah? And saying, I've got evidence to disprove Yehuda's claim. He doesn't mind that. What he doesn't want to do, yeah, is have to claim he owns it. He's happy to be a strange witness, like someone who comes in off the street as if I've got no vested interest. I'm just a helpful citizen, and I'm telling you that you're lying. It's not the same as yeah. So that's basically the case.
Without saying I am actually the owner, he's not telling the whole truth. Nothing but the truth. He's only saying half the story.
Who is?
Shimon would be saying, I've got evidence to disprove Yehuda, but he's not saying in this scenario, I wouldn't be saying that I was actually the owner, not you. So that's the case that's being
the case. No, he's not saying. Shimon wants to do a two-step approach, right? A two-step approach. He wants to knock out Yehuda, and then he wants to come to Levi and prove he owns it.
So you must have some other evidence that disproves.
Yeah. He's got two totally different things. That's right. That's right. And we will not let him knock out Yehuda, stand up in court and testify that Yehuda's claim is false, because he has a vested interest, and that prevents him doing so. That's called Noger Ba'edus, and that is why we bring this whole Gemora, because this is our sugya, right? The sugya is dealing with cases where, remember we were talking about the shutfim, how they can't testify one another because they stand to gain, right? There's a vested interest, and this is an example of a vested interest. That's why I bring this price.
Yeah. But why would he not be allowed to give evidence? Leave aside the Yehuda is a mafia boss that says it can't be here because I'm the owner. Would that also be disqualified?
What, for Shimon to come along and say he's the owner?
He's got factual evidence regarding the true ownership, and he's withholding it.
Yeah, but
he's misleading. He's actually misleading the Beis Din.
No, because if he comes, if he comes along and says, firstly, he's got evidence. He's got evidence that it belongs to him, right? It belongs to him. He's not using that, and that was really the Gemara's question. So why can't he? Yeah. Let him use that against Yehuda, and that means he's not vested in interest of Levi either,
right?
Because he can, whatever he's going to say is his. He can bring that against either of them. Yeah. So what's the difference? What is the difference? And the answer is no. He doesn't want to do that. This is tactical. It's strategic.
But that strategy is not.
You have to remember that if he goes straight to his second claim, okay, that means he's fighting Yehuda.
Yeah, I see that. But
he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to argue with Yehuda. There's a claim, there's an argument as to who was the original owner. Was the original owner of this field Shimon or Yehuda? That's the question, right? That is the debate. The question is, who is the owner? Is it Shimon or Yehuda? These two people claim ownership. Reuven was definitely not the owner. He stole it from Shimon. Levi is definitely not the owner because he bought it from Reuven, right? So the only two possible candidates for ownership are Shimon and Yehuda, okay? Shimon knows that Yehuda is really tough and that the land is currently with Levi. Those two facts these are the facts, right? He knows that Yehuda is really powerful and that the land is currently with Levi. So what does he do? He gets up in Beis Din, and first he knocks out Yehuda. And the way he knocks out Yehuda is by getting up together with another aide and proving Yehuda's testimony is false. Okay. Subsequently, he's very happy to stand up against Levi in court. Actually, I'm the rightful owner. So the question is, right? The question is, why bother? Why bother? Just get up in court against Yehuda, which is your question. The answer is because he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to fight Yehuda for the land because Yehuda's really powerful and tough.
The answer is actually he's a witness in the first case.
Yes. Correct. Exactly. He's in the first stage. He's not opposing Yehuda as a whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? Like where I'm this is we are going to court together. No. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing that at all. All I'm doing is just testifying. I'm just an aide. That's all. Does that make sense? Pardon?
You're saying you can't do that.
We're saying that he cannot do that. And the reason why he cannot do it is because since he has a vested interest in the land, staying with Levi, because he knows he'll be able to get it out from Levi. That's a vested interest. That is enough of a vested interest. I'm Noger B'Dova because I want to get it myself, and therefore I want to leave it with an easy plaintiff. That's the point.
It's almost an absurd situation where if he told everything that
Who's Shimon?
then he would be allowed.
But then he wouldn't need to testify. The whole point of testifying is only to let Levi keep it temporarily.
And always testify.
Yes, I appreciate.
No, but no, there's two things. But Jeremy said it very well, because there's two separate, totally separate things going on here. It's not that he's like two pieces of witness statements. It's not like that. It's two totally separate things. Shimon is playing two totally different roles. He's playing a role as an aide, as a witness, and then he's playing a role as I claim ownership.
Yeah,
it's a totally different thing. It's not. Yeah, he's moving on to a different side of the court. Now we see the Rashbam. We'll explain it all very, very clearly and help us understand it. So the Rashbam is halfway down the middle width column, right? Reisha b'Reuven shegozel Sodom Shimon u'mochor leLevi v'osi Yehuda. So Klomer, this means to say as follows: Inish me Alma. Who is Yehuda? Yehuda's an Inish me Alma. He's someone else from outside. We don't know who he is. Not part of the story. He suddenly comes along. U'ma'arer al Sodezu Shabiyad Levi, and he queries and raises the claim on this field that's currently in Levi's hand. V'omer, and he says, Shalihi, it's my field. When maybe Adim, and he brings witnesses, oishtar, or a document, right? A document. That's what he does. Now, the din of this brisa is Shelo Yovoi Shimon hanigzal, that Shimon, from whom Reuven stole it, is not allowed to come along, v'yitzaref im acher, and join with someone else, v'yoed, and testify, shazeh hasoda eino liYehuda. Now, this field does not belong to Yehuda. Right? Going, how would he do that? For example, for example, he might know some testimony which can disqualify the testimony of Yehuda through thievery, through theft. That's a very simple thing. I mentioned the thing about disproving the document. It's a simple thing. Two Adam get along and say, we say that the Adam of Yehuda were Gazlanim, or they were disqualified from Adus. Simple, easy way of doing it, right? You understand? Shimon and another Aid gets up and says, yeah, Yehuda has two Adam that are his. They're thieves. We saw them pigeon racing every Sunday last year. Whatever the Masachik Mekuvia, what all the psulim, right? We prove that they're postulating, right?
Doesn't Basin have any star or anything?
Well, why is it not recorded?
Why is there no?
No, it's a good question. That's a good question. And number one, the concept of a land registry, I think, is a very, really, really modern concept. This idea that things are recorded like that. In those days, they were in local area. Everyone, you keep your documents yourself, right? When Yirmiyahu Novi sells a field, he's told to sell a field or buy a field. In order to, this was one of the nevuos of Yirmiyahu. We mentioned it, I think, at the beginning of the parak. To give confidence to those who are going into exile, the Golas Bovel, right? That they were going to come back, right? He's told to buy a field, right? And from there we learn a lot of the halachas of buying and selling, and he's to, because of the sefer v'chosim, he's told to write it in a sefer or whatever and seal it. It wasn't like a public registry. You had to write it. You had to write the shtai. Right? That's our whole premise of our whole parak. That people lose documents and keep the documents. That's all there is left. If there was, it would make it much easier. And today, of course, you have documents and land registry and things like that you can fall back on. So, in that way, and they'll use that. But anyway, this is the point. So, Shimon is able to disqualify. He wants to be able to disqualify. That's what he's trying to do. The Eidos of Yehuda Bagazlonos, V'chein Shtorah, and similarly his star. He wants to disqualify, let's say, the Eidim on Yehuda's star. Why does he want to do this? Because Sherotza Shimon, Sheyiyah Sodeh B'yad Levi HaKoineh. Because Shimon wants it to be in Levi the purchaser's hand. But Acharei Kain, because afterwards, Hayom, today, Ulamocha, or the next day, Yovi Shimon Raya, Shimon will bring a proof, Shazu Asodeh Shelo Hoya, that this field was his. Reuven Gozlim Imenu, and Reuven stole it from him. V'yotzio miyad Levi, and he'll take it away from Levi. V'yitlenu la'atzmai. You with me? And he'll keep it for himself. Tekarka eino nigzeles. Because now, okay, the Rashbam slips in here another little question he's got, right? That why is it that he can ever claim it again? Surely the ownership has now changed hands. because in other words, he's relinquished his ownership. There are processes by which people can relinquish their ownership. If you lose something, for example, Yush, you have Yush, and the Yush means you give up hope. By Elim Yush, you give up hope. Shinu Rishus changes domains. All the sugyas actually came up in both those who learned Daf Yomi came up in both Kama in Perek Merubah. The idea, you can have the two things together, and that means you kind of basically lose your claim to it, right? But that doesn't have that. All that does not apply to land. The karka ain't on exelis, because the rule is that land cannot be stolen. And giving up hope and even changing possession makes no difference. So even if he had given up hope and it changed possession, which it did, because the thief stole it. That's called shini rishus. It changed ownership. You understand? Yeah, changed ownership. So even if he had given up hope and it changed possession, which in other circumstances, if it wasn't land, could mean that it's gone. Doesn't mean the thief doesn't have to pay. No. But yeah, you understand. But it doesn't mean the thief still has to pay, right? The thief still has to pay, but the land, you can't get the land back potentially, right? If it's sold to something. So if it wasn't land, if it was metaltalid, right? Different rules about that when that applies, whatever. But here, the hilkach, therefore, noger be'edusu, he is noger be'edus. He has a negius. He has a vested interest in this testimony. Because he doesn't want Yehuda to take the land. The sulo motzi Shimon lafukim, because then Shimon can no longer get it away from him. Get the Mefarish to come on, as we explain later on, the Noach lo Levi, because it's easier for him to fight Levi, right? And therefore that's why he wants to disprove Yehuda. Yehuda koshelo, and Yehuda is difficult for him to fight. Therefore, ein meid lo Shimon anigzal Levi oleo. Therefore, Shimon, the one whom it is stolen from, is not allowed to testify for Levi on the field, right? About the field. He's not allowed to do that. This is what the Brisa is saying. Now we're going to understand how he fits in, how Gemora fits this into the Brisa. Mochalo bias. If he sells him a house, mochalo soda. When he sells him a field, that means Reuven agazlon lelevi. Reuven the thief stole these things, this house or this field to Levi. Ein meid lo Shimon hanigzol lelevi lo keach oleo. Shimon, the one whom it was stolen from, is not allowed to testify for Levi on behalf of Levi the buyer about the field. Keneged Yehuda hama'arer, to destroy or opposite Yehuda who claims ownership. Because the guarantee, the responsibility, the claim to be for compensation, the sofer shel nigzal, and the end where he wants to go of the nigzal, of the one who was stolen from, that means Shimon olov delokeach is on the buyer. Shimon is after that buyer. Shimon he's going after Levi, the buyer, right? That's what Shimon's ultimate goal is. To take the land away from him. Therefore, he's got vested interest in this Eidos. Later on, the Gemara is going to explain why do we have to say it's talking about someone whom it was stolen from and then he subsequently sold? We could have just said it's just talking about a thief. And Yehuda came along and claimed that it was his. Shimon HaNigzal, that Shimon the Nigzal, right? You could have just said that there's just the thief, if someone stole it. But also Yehuda came along and claims ownership. Shimon HaNigzal, Shimon the one it was stolen from, can't come to testify for Reuven the thief, to keep it in his hand. For the same reason, because it's easier for him to get it back from Reuven afterwards. The Sefer Mefarish that come on, the end of the Brisa, we're going to explain later on. I'll just explain to you very briefly what the Rosh Hashanah is saying there. Do you understand what the Rosh Hashanah is saying? What he's doing is spelling out. Most of the Rosh Hashanah just is everything we spoke about, right? Just explaining it clearly, right? He has a little interesting question at the end. Why can't we delete Levi from the picture? That's his question. If you delete Levi from the picture, yeah,
that's the whole thing. He doesn't want to go against Yehuda. He wants to go against Levi.
Yeah, but look at it like this. Reuven stole the field from Shimon.
I'm assuming there's no proof that Reuven stole it from Shimon. Otherwise, the whole
we know it's a fact. No. It's fact.
Then the whole thing just falls apart.
Why?
Because then Reuven and Levi are no longer in the picture.
What do you mean? We know Reuven's a thief and Levi's a buyer from a thief. We know that.
Yeah, I know. But if you know that it's a stolen piece of land,
then what are we going to do with it? Who are you going to give it to? Shimon or Yehuda?
Well, that's the argument.
That's right.
Levi and Reuven have got no stripes anymore because the whole thing was a
It's true that Levi and Reuven are definitely not the owners. That's for sure, right?
yeah.
But we still don't know who to give it to.
So it's a dispute between Shimon and Levi.
Shimon and Yehuda.
Shimon and Yehuda.
Correct.
Right. So
Correct.
Reuven and Levi are out of the picture. But then the whole case of the Gemora doesn't
Why?
make any sense.
Why doesn't it make sense?
Because then there's no issue about him having a vested interest, etc.
Of course there is. Because although we know that Levi has no rights to this field, everyone agrees that. Everyone agrees he's got no right to the field, right? Everyone agrees that, right? But the reality is that
With any reason Shimon would come and testify.
why?
The whole
No, because he can choose when to launch his claim. I know what you're asking, but Shimon,
if it's fundamentally known that Reuven's a thief, it doesn't stay out.
why? What are you going to do? What are you going to do with the
If you
field?
throw it out of court, the court wouldn't even.
Why would they throw out the court?
Because you're saying it's a fact that he stole it.
Why? Yehuda comes along and says, "I've got
There
evidence."
must be a margin of.
Why? Based in, but Yehuda comes along and claims the field this is, right? Based in know this is a stolen piece of land, but they don't know who it's stolen from or the details, or maybe there's no claimant. Maybe the claimant's gone overseas. Maybe the claimant's not interested anymore. Maybe he's given up. Maybe, who cares? Who knows, right? So we know that Reuven stole the field, and we know that he sold it to Levi. So we know that Levi bought it from a thief. But as long as the person doesn't come up, there's no claimant. What are Beis Din going to do? Beis Din don't get involved in cases unless there's a claimant. Shimon's not claiming it yet.
If you don't know who the claimant is,
Who's the only claimant at the moment is Yehuda.
You can't prove he stole it.
But the only claimant at the moment in Beis Din is Yehuda. Yehuda's a claimant. Yehuda says, this field is mine.
But then why wouldn't he go straight to Reuven? That you stole my field.
What we get. Reuven doesn't have it now.
Yeah, but once he's proved it's stolen goods, then Levi hasn't got a case to stand on.
But Levi's that may be, but Yehuda's only interested in taking the field. So he goes to Levi and he says to Levi, you know that field you're in, that's stolen goods, right? So Levi says, prove it. Okay, we're going to Beis Din. So in Beis Din, Yehuda gets up and brings proof that he owns the field. And Levi vehemently disagrees, right? Remember, we know the story behind the scene. We know there's a Shimon. We know there's a Shimon, right? Levi just wants his field. He bought it. He said, "I bought it in good faith." You know, we know the story.
He doesn't actually know everything behind the background.
It's not.
You're saying that
We know.
Knows the background. Then
No. You're right. Okay. That's really what Ellie's asking. That is really what Ellie's saying. Okay, it's a fair point, and it could be that the Beis Din are not appraised of the details of this case, and we are, from an external perspective, we know the story. Okay, that's fair enough. So as far as Beis Din are concerned, there's a machlokas going on between Levi and Yehuda. Right? You agree? I mean, I've rubbed Levi out now because I was in the middle of saying something, but
by definition, though, there's also Reuven is in the picture. There's his status as a thief must be in question. It can't be guaranteed.
Okay.
He's a definite thief. Anyway.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Okay. No, I don't. Well, yes. Levi will go back to, of course, Levi, who brought the field from Reuven, is going to go back to him and say, "You stole me a stolen field." Okay, fine, whatever, right? That's fine. Yeah. But the point is that we know the facts, and we have to know the facts to explain the case, right? But the Rashbam's point that it's fine. It still works. You understand? Leave it like that. That Beis Din have all Beis Din see in front of them is a dispute between Levi and Yehuda. Levi says, "I bought this field in good faith." Yehuda comes along and says it's stolen goods. Shimon wants to testify on his behalf, etc., right? But the Rashbam's question, which the Gemora's question asked later, is actually we don't need Levi at all. The same case can arise with three people. Why? Reuven steals the field from Shimon. Yehuda claims that field that you stole from Shimon is really mine. Shimon is not allowed to disprove Yehuda because he wants to get the field back from Reuven. Same thing.
That depends on if Levi's not taking possession of it.
What?
Levi's not taking possession of the land. That does work.
Yeah, there's no Levi now.
No, but okay, so Reuven's got possession.
Reuven stole. Yeah, Reuven's currently got the land, right? Reuven's currently got the land. Yehuda comes along and testifies in court or brings Eidim that he owns it. So Shimon has a vested interest in helping Reuven, the thief. He stole it from him. Why didn't he just fight him? And the answer is because he knows that once Yehuda gets it, he's in big trouble. Because Yehuda is a known dangerous guy. So the halach will be the same.
So we can have a much simpler case. We don't need Levi.
There's also a dangerous guy. I mean, that's just something.
No, we're saying that would be a case. We're setting up a case where we will prevent Shimon testifying because of the fact that he has a vested interest, right? Yeah. So that's what the Gemara is going to ask later on. All right. But for now, let's carry on the Rashbam, 4 lines down in the wide lines. And we ask the following question. Vakati, and still, why can't he testify for him? Or Kivon the Asid, the Levi. Since he's testified that it belongs to Levi, because we think now, Hochi as follows, Yehuda, we take it away from Yehuda, Levi, and we put it in Levi's hands, right? The Komasitu Basoda, the Levi, right? Because he testifies about the field that it belongs to Levi. That's our Havamina. Now, what the Havamina is, I bet it'd be confusing. I better put Levi. Now the reason why the Havamina is what? The simple way of understanding what Shimon says is that he proves it belongs to Levi. Right? That's what he does. He comes along and he says, right, he testifies. The Komastu Basoda, the Levi who belongs, he testifies the field belongs to Levi, not Yehuda. The Kimah the Hoida based.
It belongs to Levi. Testifies that it doesn't belong.
No. Have a minute. We're saying this is Mo's question. We know the answer. The Mo's question is: surely Shimon comes along and says, "I will testify in court. This belongs to Levi." The Kivon the Hoida b'fnei based in Levi who, if Shimon admits in court that it belongs to Levi, he can never get away from Levi anymore, and therefore he's got no vested interest, right? Simple principle. Yeah, Hudas Baldin, if the Baldin admits, it's like 100 witnesses, 100 Adams, strongest thing. If you get up in court and you admit to something, you're finished. You. It's true.
Not believed.
Kamodi b'knas is potter. That's something else. If you admit if you admit that you are knas, you're potter. That's a whole different thing. But I'm generally speaking, Hudas Baldin Kamedim Domi. If the Baldin, that means the claimant himself, the plaintiff gets up and says, I agree, I admit in court, well, that's like 100 Adams. So he's finished now. And the Gemara says, the Nimsa She'enam of Yachklum, says Rashbam. So he's not gaining at all the Eidasu with this testimony. The Einan Agev Eidasu Klal. And he's not benefiting from this Eidas at all. So why does it say that he can't testify? And the Gemara answers, Mashani, he said, I know that this land does not belong to Yehuda. That's all he says. The Apostle Yehuda Begazlo Nusa. He just disqualifies Yehuda. That's why we got a cross there through Yehuda, yeah? He disqualifies the witnesses of Yehuda with thievery, or he contradicts his claims in some way. It could go in Shemeid, it could be he testifies, with another witness in front of me, or in front of us. Yehuda admitted that he didn't own it. You can have testimony like that in Beistin, yeah? We're
assuming that these are all false witnesses, or this is actually true.
No, we're not assuming it's false. Why is it false? Why is it false? If on the contrary, if Shimon was not, Shimon is only it's not false, because we're saying the only reason Shimon is disqualified here is because he's got vested interest. Otherwise, we should believe him. Why not?
So we shouldn't believe him even if he witnesses that.
Even if it's true. Even if it's true. Yeah, he's disqualified from testimony. He's disqualified per se from testifying. Yeah. Because he got vested interest. And automatically the field goes to Levi. Even though he doesn't say that it belongs to Levi, but since he would testify and admit that it doesn't belong, that Yehuda's lying, automatically goes to Levi, right? So that's what we're saying, yeah? So he crosses out Yehuda. Makshina, we still ask, still, why can he not testify for him? Ma mafsid Shimon. What is Shimon losing in Tia b'cheskas Yehuda if it's in the possession of Yehuda? For bahu zechusa, with that same zechus to komapik lo Levi, that he takes it away from Levi, hayom l'machar, today or tomorrow, to komaisi eidim shesada shalei, he brings witnesses that this field belongs to him, but gozla Ruvain mimenu, and Ruvain stole it from him, right? Because that's the evidence he's bringing, yeah? That's what he's doing. He's bringing witnesses, yeah? And whatever he's going to do, that he's going to take away from Levi, right? V'gazar of Imenu, Hochinami here as well, Lifkom Yehuda, he should be taken away from Yehuda, Bahanu Eidim, with the Bahanu Eidim Atzmon, with the same, very same Eidim. V'nimtza she'ein maviach b'mashamei levi klal. And it comes out the same question. He's not benefiting from testifying for Levi at all. You understand? That's the key question. We have to get to a position where Shimon stands to gain from his evidence. And that's why we're disqualifying him. We're saying, what are you disqualified? Why should he be disqualified? What's the difference? Let him testify that Yehuda's a liar, because it makes no difference to him. He's either going to fight Levi or Yehuda. So if he wants to do it this way, if he wants to disprove Yehuda, okay, and then fight Levi, he wants to do the two-step process, who cares? Let him do it. Why should we believe? You understand? We have no other reason to disprove and not believe Shimon other than the fact that he has a vested interest. So if we can show that there's no vested interest, we should believe him, right? And here we're saying there's no vested interest because whatever I'm going to say to Levi, I can say to Yehuda. So there's no vested interest in me, destroying Yehuda, because I could have brought that claim to Yehuda. It's a bit like a migo that we saw earlier in the prayer. I could have said this. I believe him when I say that. That's the answer. The answer is there's a preference. Right. That's the answer, isn't it? The question of the Gemora is, assuming, who cares? I'll argue with him, going to argue with him, what's the difference, right? You understand? We're going to say no. So what's no? What Gemora says? The answer is Meshani, says the Rashbam, the answer is Mishum Hochi Einamed. For this is the reason why he's not able to testify. The Kosova Shimon, because Shimon holds, Shimon thinks, Levi Noachli. Levi is easier for me to fight. Yehuda Gavra Almohu. Yehuda is a strong man. And he's much tougher than Levi. And I won't be able to fight and argue with him if he gets hold of that field. Once Yehuda's got his clutches on that field, I'm finished. That's what he thinks to himself. And this is the reason. That's why we disqualify him for this testimony. Because it's possible to say that this is the thought process of Shimon. That's an important line. It could be that this is Shimon's thought process. Maybe not. But once we have a plausible line of reasoning that Shimon stands to gain, you understand? He's got a vested interest in getting up there in court as a witness. Forget it. We're not interested. We're not interested. You with me? Yeah? We're not interested. And we should not be machsher until it's obvious to us that he has no vested interest at all in testifying. Hocha over here. Sorry, no, full stop. Hocha on the Ibcha. The Rashbam just adds this all in brackets. Here we should have said the other way round. Levi Horishan Noachli. Levi, the first individual, was better to me. I preferred him. Yehuda Hasheni Koshe Menu. And Yehuda, the second guy, was more difficult than him. But the Lashon of the Mishnah in Ksubas is this phraseology. Horishan Noachli. Yeah? Hasheni Noachli, Horishan Koshe Menu. In Ksubas, where this whole sugya is, this whole sugya in the end, towards the end of Ksubas, this idea of where a person will say, I prefer person 2 than person 1. That in Ksubas, that's the setup. The setup there is where you prefer person 2 to person 1. Really, here it's the other way around. Really, he prefers person 1 to person 2. Yehuda's the new guy, yeah. So he prefers 1. You understand? He prefers Levi, actually, yeah. But we just use the phrase that's you kept in the Gemora Ksubas because that's the way it's phrased there. Does that make sense? Yeah. So okay. Yeah. So okay. So basically, so what we've done is we've explained the brisa as talking about a scenario and a way and a case that enables us to understand why it is that Levi is disqualified, that Shimon is disqualified from testifying, because he's Negeh Ba'edus. We have to still solve the Sefer, because the Sefer is a different setup as well, set altogether. Yeah. Okay, very good. All right. So the Gemara is going to give an Ibois Amor, and the Ibois Amor is another alternative reason as to why Shimon is not allowed to take it away from Yehuda. It's taken away from Yehuda. But we can't really start it now. We've only got a few more minutes, so I think we'll probably leave it. But yeah, go on.
Approach to bring the voice in because it feels that the first one.
No, I don't think so. The Rashbam, the Gemara just brings an alternative way of understanding why it is that Shimon is not able to take it away from Yehuda, right? And the scenario it's going to talk about is where that Shimon has Eidim, that the field belongs to him, right? He's got Eidim, and Reuven has other witnesses that contradict Shimon's Eidim, and they say it belongs to Yehuda, right? So that means to say now it's a battle between Eidim. I've got Eidim, it belongs to me. You've got Eidim, it belongs to you. Okay, right? Okay. And the din is, the Chazal say that where it is, that's where it's got to stay. I have to go into next time.
It's going to be presented within the Rashbam, right? There are flaws within this scenario.
Why?
Because he said you could take out maybe.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah,
Is that why the Gemora has to?
No, I don't think so, because I think the question that the Gemara is going to ask, being able to take Levi out of the picture, might arise according to the Iboy Sema as well, potentially.
Oh, really?
Yeah, possibly. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see it properly.
Well, is this different to the case of the cow? I understand.
Oh no, you're right. 100%. That's what we have to deal with the Sefer. We haven't dealt with that yet.
No.
Yeah. We're gonna. Yeah, it's right. It's complex, but we'll Mitzvah carry on next week. See you, Richard.
Sure. Thank you.
Pleasure.